folks, it's Friday night story time. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Egyszer elért egy körtefán. Azt mondja a körtefa neki. Engem a száraz ágattól, hogy engemet megtisztogatsz, jó tettedért kaphatsz.
Üdvözöljük mindenkinek. Welcome back to another edition of Csütörtök Éjszaka Történet Idő. Today I'm here with a very special guest, Fruzsina, aka Fruzsi.
Hi, sziasztok!
Mizse Fruzsina?
Igen.
Mizse Fruzsina. And I met Fruzsi last year. She was a journalist for the A38 Hajo Naplo magazine, newspaper, whatever you want to call it. And we did an interview. We had a great day. Walked around the city, went up to the tomb of Gul Baba, was it?
Yeah, it was. Met a Serbian lady also.
Met a Serbian lady. Walked around the statue of Taras Shevchenko, famous Ukraine kultu, down by the Kirai bathhouse, which is now closed, tragically. And now she is here to illuminate us with her expertise in all things literary. You had a degree in literature?
Yeah, just recently got my master's.
Nice. And what was the specific master's in?
Oh, well, it was cultural theory, probably, and, Hungarian literature in general, and media theory also.
Great. So unlike me, who's just a charlatan and not a fraud, but someone who's posing as an expert on Hungarian literature, we have an actual expert with us today. So I'm very excited to get to that. We're going to read a little bit more of the Hunor and Magor story in English. And following about maybe 10, 15 minutes, Fruzsi and I will break it down, have a little bit of a discussion, and then later in the show, we're going to move on to some József Attila, her favorite poet.
Favorite.
Kedvenc, one of mine as well. And so I'm very, very, very excited for that. But before we get going, I have a lovely bottle here.
Aww.
It's got a nice historical cape on the front. 1690 hat. That would have been at the end of the 17. század, right before the Rákóczi Szabadságharc. It's from Dibonis Winery in Szabadka, which is currently in Serbia, but I think used to be part of the Magyar Királyság. What do they call, Felvidék is like Slovakia. What's the Serbian part called? Is there a word for it?
Vajdaság.
Vajdaság. So this is a Vajdasági bor. 2009 vörös bor.
And it's got a gold medal or something.
Oh, arancsapat.
Oh, must be great. Cheers.
So let's get this poured out. We've got a nice wine glass here for Fruzsi.
Yeah, it's the nice one for me, the ugly one for Willie. Gentlemen should do.
Very suitable.
Thank you.
Here you are.
Oh, so nice. So welcome, everybody.
Üdvözöljük Fruzsi és Vilmos.
Igen, cheers.
Egészségedre.
Egészségedre.
Egészségetekre.
Egészség. Wow.
Tetszik?
Igen. Gyümölcsös, erős.
Gyümölcsös,
Strong one.
erős. Characteristic. How do you say like characteristic in Hungarian?
Karakteres.
Karakteres. Okay. Karakteres, gyümölcsös, erősös. Erősös? Nem, csak erős. Erős. Erős és vörös.
You know what is funny? When I first got my BA, it's like bachelor.
Exactly.
Then the English part, there's the Hungarian part. And then the English part said expert in Hungarian. I was like, oh my God, 24 years and I achieved this. Cool.
Nagyon jó.
My friends couldn't stop laughing at me.
Úgy vagy.
Köszönöm.
Okay, so now we're going to go to this Hunor and Magor legend, and this is part 3, Harmonic Race. It's called White Eagle of the Moon, Feher Sás Ahudja.
Fehér sas elődje.
Ahod.
Hold.
Ahod. Feher Sás Ahudja, vagy
Fehér sas holdja.
Feher Sás Ahudja. So, here we go. Into Storyland. Enjoy. The White Eagle of the Moon. Hunor and Magor. You see, it always says Magyar here, but his name is Magor. Hunor and Magyar. So if I sometimes cross it up and say Magyar, that's why. Hunor and Magor were prepared for a long journey into the unknown lands. But they could not foresee that this journey would last for many long years. They could not foresee that there was to be no more peace for their people until they had reached the land of their destiny. They did not know that when they had left the blue lake, the Keikto, they had left the last unclaimed, undefended land, had left Asia, the land of the rising sun, and entered Europe, the land of the setting sun. They knew how to cope with wild beasts of the mountains or the occasional onslaught of marauding gangs. They were hardened to the burning heat and freezing winds of the plains. They knew how to pacify hostile spirits. But this time, they encountered something that was stronger, more dangerous than any of these. The desperate resistance of people who were defending their own lands. People who had found what the Huns and the Magyars were seeking, a permanent home. If they ever needed the armor of belief and the sword of purpose, they needed them in these illimitable, tragic years. Tragic for themselves because ensuing cruel wars changed their very souls, made fierce, wild warriors of the once carefree hunters, and tragic for those who stood in their way. Because they were crushed by a pitiless, relentless torrent of savages. They swept across Scythia, leaving a path of destruction behind them. Smoking ruins, desolate fields, and a multitude of the dead. In vain did Magor attempt to divert them toward the less populated north. The Huns, led by young Bendigoos, swept on. The wings of the White Eagle were stained with blood, and his piercing cry was heard over the whole world. For years there was no rest for them. There could be no rest. Like a sharp wedge, they had driven themselves into Europe, and now they were surrounded by enemies. They had to go on or perish. Perish, that's a good word. Perish means basically to die, to expire. Like food, it perishes. It has a date, a perishing date, a date that it perishes by. What's the word for perish in Hungarian? Meghalt?
Semmivé lenni.
Semmivé lenni. Oh, I like that. Köszönöm szépen. For years, there was no rest for them. There could be no rest. Like a sharp wedge, they had driven themselves into Europe, and now they were surrounded by enemies. They had to go on or perish. Not until Bendigoos was a grown man did they find a haven from the terrific storm they themselves had created. Oh, I just saw a comment pop on there. Not sure exactly who it was, but Szép estét. Welcome. Üdvözöljük. Feel free to comment while we're reading. Fruji and I will answer. Good evening all. Szép estét. Oh, Sabo Karoy. Alexa's Batya. Yo estét, Charlie. What's going on? How's Bristol? Very nice to see you here. On a narrow strip of land between the River Don and the River Volga, protected from the south by vast stretches of quicksand and brackish swamps, they found a stronghold where no enemy could surprise them. And once more tents were raised all around an altar to Hadur. Once more men and women sat at peace around the campfires. But these were different tents, and vastly different men and women. Tents were made of rich silks and velvets, filled with plundered treasures, carried there by hundreds of captives. Their clothes were heavy with gold and precious stones. Warriors were armed with swords and vicious, sharp javelins. And the rift between Huns and Magyars had become a gulf. that they could not bridge over if they tried. Here, in this haven of peace, the beauty of a slave girl and the coming of Attila severed the last thread that held the brother tribes together. Wow, so here we have some imagery of the Magyar horse lords, the bane of Europe for a couple of centuries. And I think that this is the coming of the slave girl. What do you think of the story so far, this part 3? Does it ring any bells of what you know about the legend of Hunor and Magor, or is it quite different?
Yes, of course. We always hear these stories in school. So we learn them, we read them, we try to understand them. But really, it's just something that it just seems so far away from our time now. And
did you like this legend or the other legends growing up when you were reading them? Or did they feel a little bit like too distant from the truth to really be powerful for you?
You know, I think as a child, you cannot differentiate between these things. So you usually just listen to them as a good tale, as they should.
And this story of Hunor and Magor specifically, what do you think it says about maybe the Hungarian culture or the Hungarian people in general? Is there any sort of clues to the makeup or the composition of the Hungarians in here?
Well, I think Hunor and Magor are always like these originating sources of the Hungarians. So they are really like these big, like fathers of the nation or something. But it's not like that significant. You know, when you think about Hungarians, they mostly rely on not these stories maybe, but literature and big historical people. Maybe they look up on these personalities more, I think.
Cool. I like that. So this is more of like a general origin story, but it's not necessarily what resonates in terms of like the cultural pride of the people. They're more proud of someone like maybe Petőfi Sándor or one of the actual tangible figures that aren't like Hunor and Magor, these sort of imaginary people in a way that represent perhaps the...
You know, when I think of these characters, it always feels like to me like some kind of this misty forest with a lot of Hungarians just walking and searching for something. It feels different from these other things I told you before. These are true tales, I think. True fairy tales.
That's where myth is very powerful for me. It sort of exists in this cross-section of space between the truth and the imagination.
Yeah, certainly helps to understand. Just like dreams, I think.
Yeah, it is like a dream in a way. Just as a dream is real, a myth is real. And perhaps it's even more real because...
myth always has keys for life, like keys to understand for everyday life, I think. Like these symbols of Hunor and Magor, the symbol of these animals which we have, or like Emese Álma, the dream of Emese.
Emese was the mother of Almos.
Yeah.
And she dreamed, and she was impregnated by the Sas, by the eagle.
Yeah. And she knew that she is pregnant with this Almos guy who's gonna start a new way for the Hungarians.
I think that might be where this story is heading. Let's read a little bit further, and we'll see where we go, and then perhaps head on to some poetry in a bit. Again, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please throw them in the chat. We'll be here all night, maybe into the next morning. You never know how things are going to go. The Magyars were content to stay in this sheltered land, but the Huns were restless. They had tasted battle, and it was to their liking. Most restless among them was Bendegouz, who had tasted power over thousands of men. He knew that he only had to command and his warriors. Hello, Willie from Debrecen. I said Debrecen because it's David. David Barat from Debrecen. Jó estét, David. Jó estét. Egészségedre. Oh, that's a good one. Where were we? He knew that he only had to command, and his warriors would go through fire or water, through danger and torture to carry out his wishes. But he knew that winter would be upon them soon. The many wounded had to be cared for. A tired army was sure to be defeated. So he used his power to hold his men in restraint, a hard task for him who wanted to go on more than any of them. At night he could not sleep. The sound of his charging army, the clashing of the Kardok, and their wild shouts of victory echoed in his heart. He was like a caged eagle waiting for the day when he could spread his wings again. One night he left his chateau and rambled around aimlessly in the sleeping camp. He wandered to the enclosure where the captives' tents stood near the banks of the river Ra. The night was cold, silvery with moonlight, and silent. He could hear the river gently lapping against its banks. It was a sweet, soothing sound, like the lullaby his mother used to sing. As he listened, a change came into the rhythm of the river's song. Now it was sad, yearning, and he could hear words. Someone was singing nearby. The melody coiled around his heart and drew him in. Down the grassy slope, down to the river's edge he went. The soft grass deadened his footsteps, and he saw the singer before she heard him. Leaning against the tree so close to the river that her moonlit figure was reflected in the water, stood one of the captive girls. To be captive, that means to be basically captured, like a slave. So she's a slave girl, this captive girl. Bendigoos stood motionless, watching and listening. Her deep, sad voice seemed to melt the fierceness around his heart. The restlessness left him. He was at peace. The song came to an end. The girl turned away from the river with a sigh. She saw Bendigoos. She made a move as to run away, then shrank against the tree and faced him defiantly. Defiantly. That's an adverb for the word defiant. And to defy someone is to stand up to them. There was contempt in her eyes and pride in the lift of her head. Bendigoos wanted to say, "Do not be afraid." But now he could not, for there was no fear in her eyes. Just cold, proud contempt. He walked closer. He could have touched her, and still she faced him defiantly. "What is her name?" he asked, and his voice was gentle.
Alita.
"Alita," he repeated slowly. "Alita, your eyes are as cold as Yeg. Do you hate me?" She looked at him for a long time. Then she turned her head away.
No. Not now.
She whispered.
Always I have before, but not now.
She was speaking the language of the Huns, yet it wasn't the same. To Bendigoos, the words she spoke were like her elusive reflection in the water. The same words he knew, but subtly different. And suddenly, the words of her song rang again in his ears.
Lead me westward, white eagle of the moon, oh lead me. O silvery rays of the moon, westward I long to fly.
Alita, where did you learn that song? Where did you learn the language of my people? He asked. She looked at him, surprised. It is the language of my people, and it is a song we all know, the song of the Feher Shash. Okay.
Wow, sip.
Najin Sep. The song of the Feher Shash. What is the Feher Shash? Is that like a figure in the Hungarian mythology?
I have no idea. No clue.
That's what I'm curious about, because this version of the story, as we've said in the previous editions of this reading, was told by a Hungarian woman, Kate Seredy. I guess she was born as Seredy Kate, born in Budapest in 1899, moved to America some 20 years later, and then wrote these books for American children, telling the Hungarian stories in English. But I feel like she might have changed a few things here and there to maybe make it, I don't know, different or...
I don't know, but the feeling is definitely something that stayed in the stories. I don't know about this white eagle thing, but I loved it so far.
Cool. What do you think? Should we keep going, or do you want to transition over to the poetry?
No, you keep going. I like it.
All right. Let's read a little bit more of this story. We have Bendeguz. I forget if he was the son of Hunor or Magor, but he was the son of one of them. And now he's getting restless. He's ready to fight. He's sort of freaking out. It sounds like maybe he needs a girl. And he finds this Alita. And she's speaking the language of his people. "The White Eagle!" exclaimed Bendeguz. "Who are you? Who are your people?" Alita lifted her head proudly. She stood like a white flame before him.
I am the daughter of King Ashkenaz, and my people are the Cimmerians, homeless wanderers upon the earth, lost in the wilderness, downtrodden by the Scythians, slain by the enemy's swords, and torn by the fangs of famine? For longer years than I can remember. We have never lost hope. We believed that someday we would find the land of peace. Believed that someday the leader promised to us by our great forefather Gomer would come and lead us to the land. The leader who shall be called the White Eagle. And now we have been taken by slaves by you, Bendeguz, and hope is dead in our hearts. The White Eagle is but a song.
Bendeguz listened to her rushing words in silence. And then he said, "Alita, do you know what my people call me?"
Your name is Bendeguz, I know.
He held out his hand to her. "Alita, listen to me. My name is Bendeguz, the White Eagle. My people are also seeking a land of peace, promised to them by our forefather Nimrod. We have been slain by swords and torn by famine on the way. Now we will kill and destroy, not because we want to, but because nothing must stand in our way. We must, and we will, reach the land of our destiny."
Wow.
While he spoke these words, Alita came slowly closer to him and took his hand. He closed his strong fingers on her hands and went on. "Tomorrow, Alita, your people shall be free. Tell them that they may leave us or stay with us, not as slaves, but as our brothers. Tell them that our strength will be their strength, that we will never forsake them." She had been looking into his eyes intently, searchingly. Now she smiled.
I can speak for my people now, Bendeguz. I will follow wherever you go. We will follow the White Eagle of the moon westward. Always.
She stepped back and slipped away between the dark trees. She might have been a dream, but her voice floated back to Bendeguz, growing fainter and fainter. "Lead me westward, White Eagle of the moon. Oh, lead me." Bendeguz, back in his tent, was also singing softly. "On silvery rays of the moon, westward I long to fly." And as he drifted into sleep, his last thought was, westward. But not alone. Not alone anymore. Okay, so
Wow.
we have this scene between Bendeguz and Alita, and he has convinced her to bring her people over to him. Now, is my understanding, is Alita, she's representative of some other tribe, I think, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I don't know which kind of tribe, but you know what came to my mind during your story? That this westward thing. This is something that Hungarians are always thinking about, just westward. And I think, I don't want to really go into this political or some contemporary social issues of the Hungarian society.
I think we'll need another couple of podcasts for that.
Yeah, me too. And also it's kind of boring compared to this, but I think this is something that is very, very like Hungarian thing, to think and dream about going west.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I mean, even because this story, I think it takes place originally in Scythia, where Nimrod was the king, and then Hunor and Magor, they had to look for a new kingdom for their people. So even though now when we talk about this dichotomy between East and West, we're more referring to Eastern Europe versus Western Europe, this still, even back to those days, goes back to this idea of Europe as a whole and what was east of that. And even I think back before, you always have this wedge of Hungary, right, between these concepts of East and West, whatever they may represent. So before you had the Byzantine emperor and the Catholic emperor, or the Pope, whatever you want to call it, and the Hungarians had to choose between Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism. And then later on, you have the Turkish and you have the Austrians, and those are two decisions to go East and West. So perhaps this is a theme that is reflected throughout the history.
Yeah, and this border identity type of thing is always represented now also. Like feeling like a bridge, actually, like from west to east.
And would you say, oh, Luxika, hello, Willie from Tatabánya. Tatabánya, I love Tatabánya. I went to a great cave there. It was called the something Barlang. What is it called?
Oh, I don't know. It probably is Turul Barlang.
No. There's the Turul. The
Yeah,
Selim.
there's that statue.
The Selim Barlang.
Selim Barlang.
Zoltán Sós. Jó estét. How do you pronounce his last name? Sós?
Sós.
Sós.
It's just like a duplicate if gondolom így van.
Gondolom.
Javíts ki.
Gondolom így van. És most azt hiszem lehet beszélni magyarul.
Megpróbálhatjuk.
Okay. Próbálok. Jó napot. Julio Gulio. That doesn't sound like a magyar. Julio Gulio. Jó napot, Julio. Hello.
Zoltán.
Urv Tatáról. Welcome. Igazából soha mentem a Tatabra, csak Tatabányára. És Tatabánya nagyon érdekes város, mert azt hiszem a klasszikus vegyes történelmes és kommunistás város, mert például sok panelházak, de is nagyon-nagyon szép kiállítás és szép természetes. De azt hallgattam, Tata nagyon-nagyon gyönyörű, nem?
Igen, Tata történelmibb, mint Tatabánya. Gondolom, hogy az volt inkább a bányaváros, de Tatán van igazából egy vár, Eszterházy vár, és egy gyönyörű tó is, ahol már én is megfordultam.
A nagyon gyönyörű tó, igazából azt hallgattam.
Igen.
És Miskolci vagy, nem?
Igen, én Miskolci. És megígérted, hogy eljössz egyszer.
Tessék?
You promised, you come.
Igen. Persze.
Túl Lidafüred.
Igazából már mentem Lidafüredre.
És nem szóltál.
Nem szóltál. Mit azt mondtad?
You haven't told me you're coming.
Most igazából megyek New Yorkba 23. novembertől 27. decemberig, de azt hiszem buék után persze megyünk Miskolcra Alexával.
Wow.
De már mentem Miskolcra barlangfürdő. Nagyon érdekes.
Igen, az egy barlangba vájt termálfürdő. És mit írtak? Írtak valamit.
Sziasztok! Milyen jó orgánumod van, Willie? Színes vagy? Kis-Erika, mit jelent orgánumod?
You have a very nice voice tone. The tone of your voice is very nice.
Köszönöm szépen, Erika.
Are you an actor?
Nem.
She asked.
Nem színes vagyok, de nem tudom, mert azt hiszem, mindenki színes, és az egész világ
egy színpad.
Azt hiszem, okosabb Vilmos azt mondta azt. Mit azt érte Zoltán? Gyere, megmutatom Tatát. Oké? Igen. Buék után talán első Miskolc.
Előbb hozzám, igen.
És utána
megyünk túrázni.
Nagyon jó. És már mentem Lidafüredre Alexa családjával, mert nagyon jó kirándultunk. Tokajra, és utána, amikor vissztünk Budapestre, amikor visszajöttünk Budapestre, mentünk a Lilafüredre, és nagyon szép.
Igen. Lilafüred olyan, mint egy mese. Mint egy tündér, nem tudom, egy tündéres történet.
My family's from Hungary. I watch your channel to understand my mom's culture. So thank you very much for all your guys' hard work. Nagyon jó. Köszönöm szépen,
Nice.
Julio.
Hi.
Where are you from, by the way, Julio? Are you from, what part are you from the States? Are you from America? Are you from New York like me? Perhaps. And where is your mom's family from? Is also...
Because Vilmos is from Felvidék.
Igen. Felvidéki Vilmos. A rövid neve. A rövid neve? Nickname?
Nickname. Nem. Becenév.
Becenév. Felvidéki Vilmos.
Becenév.
Becenév. Las Vegas. Haha.
Wow.
You ever been to Vegas, Fruji?
No. Never planning on. Sorry.
What happens
Not
there
like a
stays
party
there.
person.
Oh, yeah. Well, Vegas, I've been just once, and I wouldn't call it fun, but it's something. Budapest is where his mother is from, I believe. Giulio. Cool. Jó város, azt hiszem, Budapest. Do you like Budapest, or do you like Miskolc better?
Oh, you know, we only have this one huge city in the country, so everybody loves to come here eventually. And you have to also because you have your career and everything, but it's really an astonishing place, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I also have some Italian friends who told me, okay, I have seen this whole bunch of cities in my life, but Budapest is something else.
It is something else. And köszönöm szépen, Adrian Brown. Barna Adrian. Most magyarul könnyebb és könnyebb nekem minden nap, mert általában megyek a szánaházba. És amikor voltam szánaházban például, ha akarok kezdeni a beszélgetés mindenkivel, kell beszélgetni velem, mert a szánában, és most lehet gyakorolni minden nap.
Rá vannak kényszerülve? They must.
Igen.
When they're closed up with you.
No choice.
And it's hot in there.
Yeah, the heat actually brings out a lot of interesting conversations. You can talk with me now if you want to come on video with Frucina and myself. You can go.
Have you ever had someone on video?
My friend Eddie, who's no stranger to being on camera, came on once before.
Don't be shy. Julio.
Yeah, Julio, if you want to come on, Julio, if you want to come on video, you're more than welcome to. Budapest.fm or .fm if you're American. / Willie. That's me. It's a crap hole, Vegas. He loves Vegas. Giulio. És ki ez a kedvenc költő, magyar költő?
Az én kedvenc költőm valószínűleg József Attila. He's like one of the biggest poets of Hungary, probably. He died very young. He was like 32 or 33. I'm not sure.
Egyik a legnagyobb költő Magyarországon, és meghalt, amikor nagyon fiatal volt.
Így van.
És tragikus ember, nem?
Igen, eléggé tragikus a költészete, és, de vannak azért vidám részei is. És az ő születésnapja a magyar költészetnek a napja.
Magyar költészek napja. Mit jelent?
It's the Hungarian Poetry Day on April 11th.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. 11. áprilisban.
And also he has like the memorial places of where he was born in Budapest also.
Where was he born in Budapest, you know?
In Ferencváros.
Ferencváros. And Ferencváros on most.
Igen, most itt vagyunk éppen. Rádai.
Super. Yo, nem coincidence. How do you say coincidence in Hungarian?
Véletlen.
Véletlen.
Nem véletlen.
Barna Adrian. I was born in Budapest, but grew up in the US. So I feel like I need to relearn my mother tongue and practice.
That's gonna be a hard work.
Nagyon nehéz az anyanyelv.
Do you think it's a hard one?
Igen, nagyon nehéz, de azt hiszem az első 10% a legnehezebb, és után nem könnyű, de például azt hiszem soha natív beszélgető, how do you say native speaker?
Sosem beszélek majd úgy, mintha az anyanyelvem lenne.
Okay, yeah, like for me to get to that point.
Anyanyelv means mother tongue, you know. This.
That's also interesting, like anyanyelv, mother tongue. It's a very literal thing.
Oh, I have a very good story on that, actually. Do you know one of these big like philosophers, Heidegger?
Yeah.
He once came to Budapest and he met some guys, some professors, you know, and once he got to know that the Hungarian word for thought is gondolat, which has this short part, which is gond, and that means issue, some problem.
Oh, I didn't know.
So you have to, when you are thinking, you see, you have some problem to solve, and that's contained in the word, actually.
Wow.
So, and he said, okay, oh my God, I should have learned Hungarian instead of like ancient Greek.
Classic Heidegger.
Yeah.
That's why they say semmi gond, like no problem, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Vasdag Linda. Hello from Del Carolina, USA. Hey, what's up? Where are you? Which part of South Carolina? I was in, wow, now it's escaping me. What is that place? I've been there several times. I was in a wedding there in Kiowa Island.
Never heard. Is it a nice place?
Very nice, very nice. It's like one of the nicest places in the country, probably. Hi, Willie, from English and Magyarul. Nagyon ügyes vagy. Köszönöm szépen. I am French and moved to Hungary to follow my husband. I'm also trying to embrace the culture and the language. Love what you do. Thank you very much, Marina Magyarul. I'm guessing the Magyarul is your husband's last name. Cool. Another foreigner who loves Hungarian culture. There's a lot of us out there, actually.
That's something strange to us, I think, because it's such a small country. Who would have thought about us? But actually, I have one of my best friends, Sia, who is living now in Japan, and she got to know his husband because of him liking Hungarian culture, and he wanted to learn, actually, the language. And I don't know, he's pretty fine with it now. But they also live in Japan, so can't really tell.
So Chila and this guy, where is he from?
Japan.
He's from Japan. Okay, cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and but he told me that it's a very hard language also. So.
Igen, de mindig érdekes. És nagyon szép például a verseket nagyon gyönyörű. És most azt hiszem lehet olvasni a József Attila.
Which one do you want to?
Talán, okay. How do I say we can give everyone 3 choices and they can pick?
Okay, let's give 3 choices.
So 3 choices. Nagyon fáj. Very pain. Sziasztok, Angliaból, Leedsból. Leeds, like the football team. There's a saying, everyone hates Leeds, but I think it's actually a lovely place. They just hate the football team. Willie Mo. So, choice number 1, Nagyon fáj. Choice number 2, what was the? Dunana.
At the Danube.
By the Danube, at the Danube, Dunana. Choice number 1, Nagyon fáj. Choice number 2, a Dunana. And choice number 3?
Maybe this, no. Wow, so many great poems.
Sok nagy vers.
Sok szép vers. Oh, this one, Születésnapomra.
Születésnapomra. From my birthday. So we got choice number 1.
Nagyon fáj.
Nagyon fáj. Choice number 2.
A Dunánál.
And choice number 3.
Születésnapomra.
What's it gonna be? We can take the first one that answers, put it in the
Go on.
beszélgetés szóba. Go on. Menjünk.
Let's see.
And see. We'll wait here all night. Adunanal, says Barna Adrian. Good choice. We were hoping that you would say that. Oh. All right, now to find it. You know.
Probably, yeah. This one.
Okay, so I think we'll do a little back and forth here. I'll read one verse.
No, you're gonna read until that.
I'm gonna read until that. Okay. I will do as you command. Adunanal, első rész. A rakkodópart alsó kövén ültem. Néztem, hogy úszik el a dinnyehé. Alig hallottam. Sorsomba merülten, hogy fecseg a felszín, hallgatom-e. Mint a szívemből folyt volna tova. Zavaros, bölcs és nagy volt a Duna. Mint az izmok, ha dolgozik az ember. Reszel, kalapál, váljogot, vetás. Úgy pattant, úgy feszült, úgy ennyedett el. Minden hullám, és minden mozdulás, és mint édesanyám ringatott, mesélt, és mosta a város minden szennyesét. És elkezdett az eső cseperezni, de minta mindegy volna el is állt, és mégis, mint aki barlangból nézi, a hosszú esőt, néztem a határt. Egy kedvű, örök eső modra út. Színtelenül, mi tarka volt a múlt. Alexa. A Duna csak folyt, és mint a terméken, másra gondoló, anyjának ülén. A kisgyermek úgy játszadoztak szépen, és nevetgéltek a habok felém. Az idő árján úgy remegtek ők, mint sírküves, dőlöngő temetők. Mély levegő. So what did that mean?
He's basically sitting by the Danube and he's thinking about the past and he's thinking about his mother.
Mm-hmm.
It starts by him seeing like a watermelon, the piece of a watermelon.
The rind
Yeah,
of a watermelon.
And then he's starting to think about the mother who was like she was washing the clothes of the people around the building. And it was a very, very dangerous job, so she died early. And then he's going to think about all this history that led him to stand and sit there.
Wow. Beautiful. Would you like to read part 2? Or
I can.
It's up to you.
Okay, give it to me. Én úgy vagyok, hogy már 100 000 éve nézem, amint meglátok hirtelen. Egy pillanat, s kész az idő egésze, mint 100 000 ős szemlélget velem. Látom, mit ők nem láttak, mert kapáltak, öltek, öleltek, tették, amit kell, és ők látják azt, az anyagba leszálltak, mit én nem látok, ha vallani kell. Tudunk egymásról, mint öröm és bánat. Enyém a múlt, és övék a jelen. Verset írunk, ők fogják ceruzámat, és én érzem őket, és emlékezem. Anyám kun volt, az apám félig székely, félig román vagy tán egészen az. Anyám szájából édes volt az étel, apám szájából szép volt és igaz. Mikor mozdulok, ők ölelik egymást. Elszomorodom néha emiatt. Ez az elmúlás. Ebből vagyok. Meglásd, hogy majd nem leszünk, megszólítanak. Megszólítanak, mert ők én vagyok már. Gyenge létemre így vagyok erős. Ki emlékszem, hogy több vagyok a soknál. Mert az őssejtig vagyok minden ős. Az ős vagyok, mely sokasodni foszlik. Apám s anyámmá válok boldogon. És apám, anyám maga is ketté oszlik, s én lelkes egyé így szaporodom. A világ vagyok. Minden, ami volt, van. A sok nemzetség, mely egymásra tör. A honfoglalók győznek velem holtan, s a meghódoltak kínja meggyötör. Árpád, Zalán, Verbőci és Dózsa, török, tatár, tót, román kavarog e szívben, mely a múltnak már adós a szelíd jövővel. Mai magyarok. Én dolgozni akarok. Elegendő harc, hogy a múltat be kell vallani. A Dunának, mely múlt, jelen, s jövendő, egymást ölelik lágy hullámai. A harcot, amelyet őseink vívtak, békévé oldja az emlékezés, és rendezni végre közös dolgainkat. Ez a mi munkánk, és nem is kevés.
Wow. Gyönyörű. Azt hiszem jobban, mint az én. Nagyon, jó. Was that the rest of the poem?
Yeah, that was the ending.
That was the ending.
And you see, he was talking about Verbőci, Árpád, Zalán.
Yeah.
And he was just reminiscing of all these ancient Hungarian fathers who led us.
Who's Zalán?
Oh, I can't tell you about that. I always feel like you know Hungarian history than me. So.
I know Verbőci, I know Dózsa, I know Árpád.
Okay,
I don't know Zalán.
I don't know about Zalán that much.
Katinka Sabo, a usual, how do you say like a regular listener?
Someone, kedves hallgató.
Kedves hallgató, Katinka Sabo. Fecseg a felszín, hallgata me, az egyik kedvenc versorom. Is that another poem of József Attila's?
No, it was in the poem actually.
Oh.
At the beginning, you see here?
Uh-huh.
It was
Mint azt. Oh.
It's somewhere over here, but it actually means that I love how oh my God, it's hard to translate. It means that he's listening to the sound of the river, the top and the bottom, and the top is like bambling and just speaking very softly and about some not so interesting facts, but you know, the depth is something different.
Cool. Love it. Lovely. Gyönyörű, szép. Azt mondta Barna Adrián. Köszi szépen.
Bizony.
Does anyone want to hear another poem? Maybe we have time for a couple more, one or two. By the way, would you mind checking if Alexa's lost in the stairs? Yeah. Yeah, that's why I said it's Alexa. Uh-huh, okay.
We have her standing by the door. She can't get in.
All right. Alexa's trapped outside. Okay, well, all right. If anyone wants to hear another poem while my fiance is trapped in the wilderness.
She's lost in like the Danube River. Probably not, but...
We have time for it. We have a whole book of József Attila.
Not to be just like so depressed. There is some... The születésnapomra is something more like cheerful.
Okay. Születésnapomra. You told me that one before that you really liked it, so...
Yeah. It's like one of the biggest poems of his, and we have to learn it by heart. I know a lot of you probably know. Biztos, hogy tudjátok.
Can you find it for me? I'm having trouble. Loose wrists. We'll give Frugy a little bit more.
Thank you.
It's only polite. It's only polite.
Oh, actually, there is a song from this poem, which is pretty cool. The születésnapomra.
Uh-huh. Oh, here it is.
Here it is.
Születésnapomra. All right, let's see. What do we got here? 32 éves lettem én. Meglepetés küldtem én. Csecse, becse. Ajándék, mellyel meglepem. Kávéházi szegleten. Magam.
At the corner of the coffee house.
At the corner of the coffee house. That's kávéházi szegleten. Magam. 32 évem elszelet, s még havi 200 sositelt. Azám, hazám. Lehettem volna oktató, nem így tütütől koptató, szegény legén. De nem lettem, mert Szegeden eltanácsolt az egyetem, fura ura. Intemely gyorsan, nyersen ért, a nincsen apám, versemért, a hont kivont. Szábjával óvta ellenem, ide idézi szellemem, hevet s nevet. Ön amíg szóból értek én, nem lesz tanár effér tekén, kágyok s rágyok. Ha örül, Horger Antál úr, hogy küldtünk nem nyelvtan tanul, székály, ekej. Én egész népemet fogom, nem középiskolás fokon tanítani. What do you think? How did I do?
Well, it was fine. You have to practice with these gaming words at the end because pronunciation is pretty hard with those.
Can you show us how it's done? Maybe pick a couple to...
Like this one, this gagyog, sragyog. The j is something hard, I think, maybe to pronounce because you have to just like...
Yeah, that's the hardest for me. Okay, so Alexa is missing downstairs. Do you mind if I just give her a quick call just to make sure that she's...
That'd be a good idea.
All right. Can you hand me my phone? Elnézést, but we do not want to leave my mennyasszony stranded.
So actually,
You can keep talking.
I just wanted to tell the story of the poem, maybe.
Hey, Alexa.
It's like you're calling Siri.
Are you outside? Okay, you can come back and ring the doorbell. Ray just didn't know it was you. All right, so we'll see you soon. Set it like. Okay, cool. And Péter Diglic szakközepbe hallottam utoljára a születésnapomra verset.
He told that he was still in the school, in high school probably, but when he last heard this poem, I guess he liked it. You liked it?
Jó ötlet. Gloria Varsegi. Jó ötlet. It's very nice having you here because usually I read these poems and I don't know, I'm trying, but this is very hard Old Hungarian.
Well,
So
the story is pretty funny.
can you tell us about it?
Yeah, because the guy was like 22 when he wrote this poem, and or maybe even younger, and that he had like this very grumpy teacher at the university, and he told him, "Oh my God, you are not going to be teacher in Hungary until I live," because József Attila had some troubles because of his poems. Actually, he wrote about Christ in not like a well-mannered way during that time, and he actually had like a jury meeting with this.
Really?
Yeah, because of the poem, and the guy said, "Okay, I'm gonna cancel you," and he was like, You're not canceling me. I have another poem about you." And the ending is pretty funny because he says, "Mr. Horger Antal, I'm not gonna teach like high schoolers. I'm gonna teach everyone on a higher level in this country."
Ah, cool.
So he was pretty sure about what he does.
So this is what he says here. Ha
Ha örül.
örül Horger Antal úr, hogy küldtünk nem nyelvtan tanul.
Sekély.
Eké.
This is pretty funny because it means if you're happy that I'm not learning the grammars anymore at your school, Don't be. Because I'm gonna teach this one.
Én egész népemet fogom. Én egész népemet fogom. Nem
Középiskolás fokon.
középiskolás fokon. Én egész népemet fogom. Nem középiskolás fokon. Tanítani. This kind of reminds me a little bit of like a nyelvtörő. Like,
Yeah, because it is. Actually, it's a playful thing. Like, it's just, okay, you told me that, I tell you this. It's fun, I think.
do you know any good nyelvtörő?
Oh my God, I hate those.
You hate them? The one,
You know any good ones in Hungarian?
yeah, I know a few. Like,
Okay, this pava thing.
yeah, that was the one I just learned last week was Adam Bátyám, Papanyál van, Pavat lát van, Szájat tát van, Labat ráz van, Pava vavat.
No, not correct.
Nem jó.
Nem jó.
Oh no.
Adam Bátyám.
Adam Bátyám.
There is a short version for that. Let's try with that. Adam Bátyám.
Adam Bátyám,
Pávát látván.
Pavat lát van,
Páva vavat.
Pava vavat.
No, it's not correct either.
The one,
I don't remember.
The one that I learned was Adam Bátyám, Papanyál van, Pavat lát van, Szájat tát van.
Páva vavat.
No, then there was Labat ráz van,
Oh.
Pava vavat.
Oh, that's harder, but it's correct now.
And then I also learned the Fekete Bika Pata Kobogo Patika Pepita Kuvén.
Oh my God. I cannot repeat that.
Fekete Bika Pata Kobogo Patika Pepita Kuvén. But this is all that I do.
Now you can rap the poem too.
Én egész népemet fogom, nem középiskolás fokon. Tanítani. Yeah.
But we usually stop by this just to make like fun of the word. Like Tani.
Tani.
It's just plain.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So you want to hear the third one? Last one?
The third, the harmadik, the utolsó. What was it again?
It was nagyon fáj.
Nagyon fáj.
It was the hurtful one. Do you want to hear that?
Yeah, I think so. That's like a good one to... That's it.
It's a long one.
So maybe we'll do a little bit of switching back and forth.
Okay. When you're tired of it.
I can never get tired of József Attila.
Do you like Petőfi more?
I like Petőfi. I think Petőfi for me is a more interesting historical character.
Yeah,
But-
because of the revolutionary.
Yeah, the revolution as it 1848, és nagyon, it's almost like fake how like heroic Petőfi's story is, and I think maybe part of that is because he has this like cult built up around him.
Yeah, of course.
But it is like also just the fact to me that he died when he was 26, 27 years old.
Yep.
And he already had this incredible collection of poems. It's amazing.
Yeah. Do you have you ever learned about the 1956 revolution, 1956, and also the literature of that? Because there are a lot of immigrant writers. For example, Márai Sándor. He lived in America.
Yeah, I know. He's actually quite prominent in Leánfalu, where I live now.
Oh.
There's a lot of Márai Sándor statues and streets. Leánfalu.
And he wrote a very cool poem about 1956 and the aftermath of the revolution, because there was a lot of people, thrown into jail, and he wrote about basically the tyranny of the communists. And it's a very famous poem also, so I'm gonna search for it later, and then I'm gonna show you maybe.
What's it called?
It just won't come to my mind. I'm gonna search for it later. But if someone knows, tell us, please.
But I did read the Gyertek. It's a Márai Sándor book, like the candles, the embers.
Oh, yeah. Gyertyák csonkig égnek.
Have you read that?
Yeah, it's a good book.
Nagyon érdekes. I love the way that it's told. It's like a very interesting concept for a story, because it's just two guys sitting and they're like 90 years old by the fireplace, and the guy wanted to get revenge for that whole time, and it's just very interesting.
It's so interesting when someone leaves the home country and then they write about the experience of not being there. And also Márai eventually killed himself when he was very old because of this.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that he killed himself.
He was very he was attacked for not staying in Hungary that time, and he thought he acted cowardly or something. I don't know. Of course, we never know what went in his head or what was in his head. But he committed suicide at a pretty old age.
Actually, because there is this statue of him in Leánfalu. Te tanulsz, de most nekem is hozzád kell tanulom. Tisztelet neked. Zoltán Sos. Szia, Alexa.
Szia.
Hogy vagy?
We got a new guest here.
Nagyon special guest. Különös vendég. What does that mean?
Különleges.
Különleges. Huh? So nagyon fáj. József Attila. Az utolsó verseket. Or who knows? Maybe not. I'll begin and then I'll pass it off.
Okay.
Kívül belül, leselkedő halál elől, mint lukba megriadt egerke. Ha még hevülsz, az asszonyhoz úgy menekülsz, hogy óvjon, kárja, üle, terde. Nem csak a lágy, melegül csal, nem csak a vágy, de oda taszít a muszáj is, ezért ül el. Minden, ami asszonynál lel, míg el nem feherül a száj is. Kettős teher, és kettős kincs, hogy szeretni kell, ki szeret s pára nem találhat. Oly hontalan, mint amilyen, gemoltalan, a szűkségét végző vadállat. Nincsen egyéb menedékünk a késhegyet, parányádnak szegezd, te bátor.
És lásd, akadt nő ki érti a szavakat, de mégis ellökött magától. Nincsen helyem így élők közt. Zúg a fejem, gondom s fájdalmam kicifrázva, mint a gyerek kezében a csörgőcsereg, ha magára hagyottan rázza. Mit kellene tenni érte és ellene? Nem szégyenlem, ha kitalálom, hisz kitaszít a világ így is olyat, akit kábít a nap, rettent az álom. A kultúra úgy hull le rólam, mint ruha másol a boldog szerelemben. De az hol áll, hogy nézze, mind dobál halál, s még egyedül kelljen szenvednem? A csecsemő is szenvedi, ha szül a nő. Párosként enyhíthet alázat, de én nekem pénzt hoz fájdalmas énekem, s hozzám szegődik a gyalázat. Segítsetek, ti kisfiúk, a szemetek pattanjon meg ott ő, ahol jár. Ártatlanok, csizmák alatt sikongjatok, és mondjátok neki, nagyon fáj. Ti hű ebek, kerék alá kerüljetek, s ugassátok neki, nagyon fáj. Nők, terhetek, viselők, elvetéljetek, és sírjátok neki, nagyon fáj. Épp emberek, bukjatok, összetörjetek, s motyogjátok neki, nagyon fáj. Ti férfiak, egymást megtépve nő miatt, ne hallgassátok el, nagyon fáj. Lovak, bikák, kiket, hogy húzzatok igát, herélnek, ríjátok, nagyon fáj. Néma halak, horgot kapjatok jég alatt, és tátogjatok rá, nagyon fáj. Elevenek, minden, mi kintól megremeg, égjen, hol laktok, kert, vadon, táj. S ágya körül, üszkösen, ha elszenderül, vakogjatok velem, nagyon fáj. Hallja, még él. Azt tagadta meg, amit ér. Elvonta puszta kénye véget. Kívül belől menekülő, élő elől a legutolsó menedéket.
Wow, köszönöm szépen. That was
a pretty strong one.
Tragically beautiful. I mean, I didn't even fully understand the words at the end, but you could just tell tonally how it became a very sad and deep poem. Could you tell us a little bit what he's talking about there when he says?
Okay, let's see, because, well, he tells you that, okay, he feels like, he starts with with the fact that he is alone. Okay, and that when a man wants a woman, it is something more than him. It is something more than wanting to have a relationship or a relation to to a woman. It is like when it feels, and he starts to compare this state of mind to being like an animal when it's doing his job, you know.
A wild animal.
Yeah, a wild animal.
In the nature, with the man looking for the woman.
Yeah, and then he says, okay, there are some women who know what I'm saying, but they are not giving me help. They're not letting me love them, probably. And he says that, but at this end part, when I was chanting Nagyon fáj, he says to everyone, you men, you woman, you people, horses and fishes and everything that lives, just scream with me, it hurts. And so it's kind of the hurtful existence what he's trying to have a grasp on.
Well, Eduardo Sepulveda just says, wow, I think he really likes the way that you read.
Thank you. It's a nice poem. Read it a lot. Read a lot of József Attila.
This Nagyon fáj, is that like a phrase that has stuck in is that a famous phrase in Hungarian?
Yeah.
Like, will instantly everyone know that you're talking about this poem?
Yeah, if you say Nagyon fáj, then okay, József Attila. It is.
It's sort of like a representation of his whole life in a way.
Oh, must be. You know, he had severe problems, mental health issues, and he was also mistreated.
Abused.
Mistreated by psychoanalysts.
Oh.
They thought that he was, as far as I can tell, they thought that he was like a schizophrenic. But he was like actually borderline. He had borderline disorder, which they at the time did not know. So it was pretty tragic because they couldn't give them the treatment he needed. And so eventually he killed himself, unfortunately.
He threw himself on a train track or something, right?
Probably he did, yes. We cannot know for sure that he did it for suicide or something happened, like an accident. But probably it was a suicide, yes. Because he left a lot of letters to loved ones.
And how would you compare him to a figure like Adi Endre, for example?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, he was a big poet for him also. He was like a big figure for József Attila.
Because József Attila was more like 1920s, 1930s, and Adi Endre was more turn of the century?
Yeah, it was like millennial poetry. But Adi Endre was like this big figure of actually making a revolution to Hungarian poetry, like the language itself, making it renewed, and this
nyelvújítás.
Yes, some type of that thing. Yes, and he went to Paris, you know, and everything. He was like a big cosmopolitan, and he really wanted Hungarian to be a big language and a big literature.
Am I crazy for thinking that Adi Endre is like somewhat, obviously not a poet, but similar to Hemingway in a way?
Similar to Hemingway. Oh, well, he loved life also. He loved woman. But he was, you know, of course it was poems and not like the prose. And that's a nice comparison. I've never thought about that.
The only reason I think about that is because he also lived in Paris, obviously. But Hemingway in many ways revitalized the English language because he made it much more simple. Actually, I don't know if that's what
more minimalistic as far as I know. But like more short terms and more shorter like sentences, very clear.
And Adi Endre, he has this like look about him that's like it's I wouldn't say it's like haunting, but it's like it sticks with you. It's very like a power. He's this dark complexion and these eyes that sort of like pierce through.
Yeah, he was ill actually.
He was ill also. Yeah. So all the Hungarian poets were like. They were like the big typical geniuses, you know, with illnesses and drinking problems and syphilis. Yes. I mean,
was like that.
I don't know if it's just Hungarian poets. I think there's a lot of poets.
Like the genius type of ones.
They have an alien
or something.
An alienation from society.
Of course, and they must be, because then they couldn't have a perspective that you don't have as a more normal person.
Do you think that's necessary for a poet or a writer to have like a source of pain within them?
Oh, pain. Yeah, I think yes, that's a true thing. I also write sometimes, prose, and I told you about that before. But I find that to be very true. When you have something to solve in yourself, then you are trying to solve it by words, and that must be very true, because look at those lives. They wouldn't be so painful in these sentences if they wouldn't have lived those hard lives and hardships.
Well, I think that's what makes them also a little bit relatable, because we all have pain in our own lives in our own ways.
We just can't express it.
We can't express it. And somehow these people are like the conduit or the channel for us to express this pain or this joy, but just strong emotions in every direction. Nem értem, amit beszéltek. He doesn't understand. Okay, talán a utolsó 5 perc lehet beszélni magyarul, és
Igen.
utána a vége. We'll do 5 more minutes in Hungarian, and then we'll wrap it up. Nagyon jó volt igazából. Tetszik ez a beszélgetés.
Nekem is.
Jó, azt hiszem pihentető és kényelmes, nem kényelmes.
That would be
More like
boring. Ez nem unalmas, csak komfortos.
És nagyon jó nekem, mert azt mondtam előtt, nagyon nehéz általában, amikor olvasok a magyar verseket, mert nagyon szép a hang, nagyon szép a szavak, de nagyon nehéz nekem tényleg lehet érteni nekem. És most a veled könnyű. De is József Attila, azt hiszem, I gained an appreciation for him tonight that I didn't. I mindig nagyon jó kultúr azt gondoltam, persze, mert igazából a nagyon híres szobor a Dunánál, a parlament mellett a József Attila, és mindig azt hittem, nagyon jó srác, mert néha nagyon furcsa vagyok, de néha tetszik beszélgetni a szoborral.
És leülhetsz, és beszélhetsz vele, miközben ő gondolkodik.
Benne gondolkodik, mit jelent?
When he's thinking while you are trying to talk to him, he's like thinking about Danube and the past.
Igen. Nagyon jó szobor. És szeretnél beszélgetni több József Attila, vagy Hunor és Mágor, a véges gondolok.
Szerintem nagyon jó volt olvasni. Jól olvasol, te is. Átéled. You live it in yourself. You live through what you read.
Yeah, igen.
És nagyon jól tudsz, egyre jobban szerintem nagyon szépen beszélsz magyarul.
Köszönöm szépen. Most nagyon jó nekem meghallgatni ezt, mert azt hiszem, tudom, a magyar nyelvet nagyon nehéz, és általában nem sok idegen emberrel lehet beszélgetni és olvasni, de nekem most a több tudom.
Egyre többet.
Igen. És most lehet, I want to keep going because this language, I feel like it's going to be a lifelong challenge for me. And it's very good to have the motivation from everyone to keep going. So thank you, Fruzsi, köszönöm szépen for being here. Köszönöm szépen mindenkinek. Azt hiszem a legjobb epizód volt, mert sok action beszélgetés szobában, és we really appreciate all the comments, we really appreciate all the words. Egészségütekre one last time.
Sure.
And egészség. We will see you next week, same time, same place. Csütörtök éjszaka történeti idő. And that's a wrap.